Welcome to r/Malicious Compliance, where we share stories of people conforming to the letter but not the spirit of a request. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel and for so many likes. The first story: colleagues said don't touch his things, and that's what I did. The second story: boss makes me work for 3 people, hires someone with double my payment, refuses to pay me the same amount, and regrets it badly. The third story: I'm going to get paid 5.5 hours of overtime for browsing Reddit. On to the first story. Neil and the Fancy Biscuits. Cast: Neil, PR department coworker. Me, your friendly PR wage slave. Background: this happened about 5 years ago and did not take place in the United States of America. Neil was an older staff who worked in several different departments before an abrupt transfer to the PR department, thanks to a company-wide reorganization. He had a reputation as a prankster who often slacked off, took frequent sickies, and rarely took things seriously. Though Neil was apparently told off on a regular basis, he was ultimately retained, as he did manage to shine on occasion and had pretty good PR skills. Neil could also be fun to work with, as long as you got his brand of humor. Unfortunately, Neil also came equipped with a bad temper and rather set ways. The early days were terribly uncomfortable for all of us for several reasons. A forced transfer that no one wanted. The wide age gap between him and the rest of the team, approximately 15 years on average. Being the only male in the PR department. Department culture clash, with Neil's previous departments being much more relaxed and laid back, and the PR department a more buttoned-up, fastidious, and fast-paced environment. Though it all somehow eventually worked out in the long run, there were a fair number of conflicts at first, especially between Neil and me, as I was tasked to get him up to speed. I could appreciate that it most certainly wasn't easy for a man at his age to have to be guided through nearly everything by someone almost young enough to be his daughter, but that our personalities did not gel well made it that much worse. Case in point, the existing PR department staff were all conscious about neatness and cleanliness to some degree, while Neil was, to put it mildly, almost the exact opposite. He left his jackets and blazers on the floor on a regular basis and thought nothing of rolling chairs across them, placed coffee cups and snacks on top of official documents and submitted them with coffee cup and oil stains, and once built a pyramid of used coffee cups instead of throwing them away. Said pyramid reached a count of about 12 coffee cups, or around 4.5 days worth of coffee, before the PR director noticed it and made him throw them all away. Neil sulked for hours after that. The build-up. I was seated right next to Neil in a small, relatively isolated corner of our semi-open concept office that was oddly blocked off by some pillars due to nothing more than poor planning, and only had space for 2 desks. The nearest coworker was about 30 steps, a fax machine in a corner away. I tried not to mess with Neil's personal space beyond binning an empty coffee cup or 2, or 3 or 4, or almost completely devoured bread if I noticed them still on his desk after he left for the weekends on Fridays. But about 3 months after Neil's transfer, my dust allergies started acting up, and I figured that it was due to the inch-thick layer of dust decorating Neil's table and cabinets. I told Neil about my allergies and asked if he could clean his desk more frequently. He agreed and did so for a while at first, but soon lapsed into his old habits. Requests and even pleas did not work. Our PR manager stepped in to talk about his hygiene habits, and it worked. But that too only for a few weeks. With Neil's permission, I eventually took to cleaning his table, when I cleaned mine once in a few days. He was appreciative of this at first, until I inadvertently destroyed his second attempt at the pyramid of used coffee cups. It devolved into an argument that required a meeting held in a conference room with both our PR manager and PR director in attendance, and ended with Neil slamming his hand on the table, demanding that I never ever touch a thing on his desk again without his permission, not even a speck of dust, because it's his area and I had no right to intrude. By that time, we had lost half a day to the argument, and I just wanted to get back to my work. So I simply agreed, and we all stomped back to our respective desks like a herd of angry elephants. Malicious compliance. Neil was a local, but was born in a place much further away. His parents, long retired, opted to return to Neil's birthplace, where they still retained a home in the countryside. Neil would make frequent trips to visit them, and each time he did, he would bring back perishable snacks, or what we jokingly called fancy gold leaf biscuits, as an internal joke, after a bit of a mix-up the first time we saw them from his trips. The fancy biscuits needed to be kept chilled after a day or 2, or they would turn bad and moldy, and even stink after a while. There were occasions when Neil forgot to place them in the fridge before going off for the day, and I always helped him do so if I noticed. He likewise always thanked me for that, as not only were they expensive, they were handmade and could only be bought from a particular shop some distance from his hometown. About a month after our argument, Neil leaves for his regular trip and comes back with the usual fancy biscuits on a Friday. As was his wont, he dashes off for his regular Friday drinks, completely forgetting about the perishables on his desk. I nearly pick them up, but blessedly recall his demand just in time. Respecting his wishes, I do not touch them and simply give an unladylike snort before leaving for the weekend. Monday, Neil calls in sick. All right, hope you get better soon, Neil. Tuesday, Neil calls in sick again. He's going to see a doctor. Wednesday, Neil calls in. He's been given 3 days rest. Get well soon, Neil. Thursday, no Neil. Friday, no Neil. Second Monday, Neil calls in saying his water pipe burst and needs to stay at home to clean up the mess. He can't get PR manager or PR directors there in meetings. Can I let them know? Of course, Neil, I'll let them know. Second Tuesday, no Neil. PR manager informs me he's taken an extra day off. Second Wednesday, Neil returns and is absolutely aghast at the state of his desk. His fancy biscuits, which he left unboxed, have turned into a living work of art, with beautiful moss green gray mold mixed with some swirls of delicate blue hues and deep winding black strips in the foreground. It's spilling over one side of the box and eating into the cardboard as it valiantly attempts to join the miniature art piece that his one half-eaten brethren fallen partway out of the box. There's a ghastly smell permeating the entire section of our office, one that wasn't noticed any earlier, just maybe, possibly because of the gigantic transparent plastic box that I dangled over his desk, almost completely covering the fancy biscuits, using a DIY rod made from an extendable clothes stick, raffia string, and lots of tape. I made sure the box didn't meet the table, so technically speaking, I hadn't even touched a single speck of dust, as per his request. There are people bustling about trying to find the source of the weird smell, but haven't quite reached our little isolated corner yet. I'm wearing 2 layers of surgical face masks with a generous dab of mint toothpaste in between to ward off the smell as I go on with my work while waiting for Neil's arrival. Neil's face is a picture, and he stands there gaping like a fish for a good minute before he turns puce as he realizes what has happened. The second story is, crazy boss tries to make me work more than anyone, but doesn't want to pay me accordingly. First, some info and background. Minimum wage in Brazil was $954 a month, about $180 a month nowadays. Back in May 2017, I started working in a company as a 2D designer intern. 2 months later, I started working hourly, but with some benefits. I started making $15,000 a month, about $280 a month. 1 year has passed, and I was put in commercial proposal for sales. I was one in a team of 3, me included. Just as I learned to make quotes, one of my colleagues quits his job to work for the government, so it was just me and my friend. Let's call him Ed. Our boss was always a pain in the A, but we usually ignored her or complied. She was a real nitpicker. After some time, my manager started to make crazy complaints to me and my colleague and asked things like, sales are decreasing, so why have you put our prices down? Put the prices up again and charge for XYZ. I complied, but she called us for talks every week and always contradicted herself. When she told us to raise the prices, we didn't, she complained. Lowered our prices, she complained. In February of 2019, my coworker and friend Ed was fired for no apparent reason, but he wanted to quit for some time, so it was the best for him actually. Okay, things were great, right? Wrong. I was left in the department alone. Besides having to do the work of 2, I had to teach someone to help me, so actually I was making my job, my friend Ed's, and my boss's. The best part was finding out that the girl I was teaching was making double my money for the same work hours, $560 a month. The new girl had just started learning and could not be sending our clients our quotes for the jobs, but she complained about my teaching and everything she could to my manager. At the same time, my manager starts to tell me to stop holding the new girl's work back and let her work freely. I was peeved, but here's where the fun starts. Cue malicious compliance. I now allowed the new girl to talk freely with our clients and do her work as I did mine. She insisted in asking for my advices on all matters, emails, doubts, projects, and many more. Most of the time I helped, but it started to be so frequent that I started not helping anymore. Like, wasn't she being held back by me? FYI, my contract was about to end by May 2019, so there was only a couple of months before it ended. Before my contract ended, I sat down with my boss so we could discuss my new payment and benefits. I was going to be salaried when my contract ended. I told them I wanted my salary to be at least what Ed did, $2,500 or $445 a month. She neither agreed nor denied, just said, okay, we can settle this when your contract ends. When my contract ended, I sat down again with the manager and the financial/HR department. They wanted me to get paid $2,000 a month, about $370 before taxes. I declined it. This was followed by this conversation. Boss, why are you refusing the payment? It's more than enough for someone your age. 19 by the time. HR, why are you declining our offer? Me, because I'm the only person in the department that knows how to work in every other department. Plus, both boss and new girl don't know how to do my job. Boss, that's not true. I know how to do your job. I'm better at it than you. Me, I don't think so. And if I'm gonna get paid because of my age, not my knowledge, I'm not gonna work here anymore. HR, you have a point, but why not just comply with our offer? Me, new girl makes double my payment. She's 3 years older than me and knows not even half of what I tried to teach her. Both HR and boss, surprise Pikachu face. Boss, if you don't accept what we're willing to pay you, you don't have to keep coming. Me, okay, then I'll bring my uniform and my papers to you tomorrow. Boss, wait, you can't just go out like this. Me, I can. I don't have to work here if I don't have a contract, and if I'm not going to get paid properly. HR, you can bring your papers tomorrow morning and we can discuss this later. Thanks, OP. Boss, okay then. The next day I brought my papers, uniform, and told my now ex-coworkers that I was leaving, and got my messages and emails to be forwarded automatically to the new girl's email and phone number. I had approximately 150 negotiations ongoing, and was responsible for 6 out of 8 affiliated factories that constantly sent me emails. I went to RH, gave them my papers, said goodbye to all the factory, around 150 employees, and finally went to my ex-boss and said my goodbyes. Boss, you know you're letting us down, don't you? Me, I do. That's why I'm not coming back. Boss, just F off. Me, gladly. The defeated look on her face made me smile for weeks. Nowadays, I'm working as a civil engineer intern at a multinational company that pays me more, has healthcare, health insurance, price-to-earnings ratios, and oh boy, many more. Every once in a while, I send an email from my new company to my ex-boss asking for quotes, but I never buy there. I do that just to give them some trouble. Maybe I'm a bit of a jerk for doing this, but I don't care. Last month, my ex-boss called me asking for some advice and joked about me coming back to the company, and I gently refused. We laughed, but she was really anxious about it. I know that the company is doing okay, but many people were fired due to bad client services, bad prices, mistakes in quotes, and flaws in execution. I'm happy, and I'm expected to finish my college next year. Maybe I'll get hired by the place I'm working now, but who knows? I did so much stuff that was not on my job's description that I was more like a one-man army than a person. Ha ha ha. I used to walk to the factory production line and talk to the production people so I could understand how our products worked, and I even came up dozens of solutions to years of problems we had with the projects. They couldn't appreciate it. The last story is mandatory time wasting. So this story is happening right now. Manglement, who don't really understand how to manage our workflow, made a pronouncement on Monday. Due to the holiday season and the massive amount of work we're getting and our understaffedness, every team member is required to do mandatory 2 hours of overtime Monday through Friday, and at least 6 mandatory hours of overtime on Saturday. So we worked our butts off all week and now it's Saturday. All the hourly people are here, but management's nowhere in sight. They value their weekends. This is a problem because at the time of this post, we're effectively out of work to do. A bunch of my coworkers came in pre-dawn and cleaned up nearly everything. I came in about 20 minutes ago to find maybe a half an hour of work left for me to do. But I'm still required to do 6 hours of mandatory overtime. And there's no manager to send me home early when I finish the tiny amount of work left. I guess I'm gonna get paid 5.5 hours of overtime for browsing Reddit. Update, 30 minutes later, texted the boss to ask what to do when we run out of work. Got the response, go help other department. The other department is, you guessed it, also out of work. Well, that's my due diligence for the day. I hope you guys love these stories. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to know when the new video comes out.